Happy Sunday, Mama Radha here. I wanted to read a little more from the book, Me Obey Him, by Elizabeth Rice Hanford. And I'm just skipping through to page 55. These are the Bible examples. And she talks a little bit about how some historians, biblical scholars, thought that Queen Vashti did the right thing by disobeying her husband, but that is definitely not true. So I'm just gonna King Xerxes, like from 300, he was a bad dude, was a wicked man. Secular history confirms it, but nothing is told in the scriptures about Xerxes that reveals him so. Xerxes gave a feast, but permitted great freedom to his guests. He did not force any man to drink wine. The drinking was according to the law, none did compel. That's from Esther chapter 1, verse 8. The kings of Persia had learned from godly Jews like Daniel that they would not defile themselves with wine. Daniel chapter 1, verse 8. This king was an absolute monarch, but he did not here behave like a tyrant. What did Xerxes ask his wife to do? The Bible says he commanded her to come before the king with her crown royal to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. That's from chapter 1, verse 11. Did he ask her to commit a sin? There is no indication that he did. It was not against any command of God for her to show her beauty. Josephus, the Jewish historian, said Xerxes asked her to come naked. The Bible does not say so and does not imply it. Would it have been a sin for her to come unveiled, even if it were the custom? No, for custom is not necessarily God's law. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, Jesus said, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Mark chapter 7, verse 7. An interesting passage in Herodotus, book 5, line 18, says, King Darius, the father of King Xerxes, told the Macedonians, we Persians have a custom when we make a great feast to bring with us to the board our wives and concubines, make them all sit beside us. So Xerxes may not have required anything at all out of the ordinary when he sent for Vashti. There is certainly no evidence that he commanded her to sin. So that takes care of that. When she refused to come, Xerxes reacted with remarkable restraint. The man who resigned from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces was obviously accustomed to being obeyed. You'd expect him to order Vashti's immediate death. Instead, he reasonably sought advice of his wise men. For so the king's manner, chapter 1, verse 13, his punishment was mild considering her crime, and the emphasis in the letter sent to the provinces stresses not the insult to the king, but the need for every man to bear rule in his own house. Amen. Chapter 1, verse 20 and 22. Xerxes' pride in Vashti's beauty was evidently not wrong, since the Bible stresses the great beauty of Esther as well. Amen, amen. Okay. In contrast, the characteristics of Esther most stressed is that she was obedient to Mordecai, who's her uncle. There's a bunch of scriptures listed there. Why is it stressed? On purpose, perhaps, to contrast it with Vashti's disobedience. It was no mark of unspirituality for a Jew to be in Susan. How do you say it? I forgot how to say it. At this time, God had told the people to settle down in captivity, to build houses, plant gardens, and bear children there. Jeremiah 29, verse 5 through 7. Daniel never returned to Jerusalem. Nehemiah went back and forth, but did not stay. Nor were all the people who went back to Jerusalem spiritually minded. That was the whole burden of the preaching of the prophets. I'm bad with names. Haggai, and Zechariah. Actually, Mordecai was a spiritually minded man. He risked death by not bowing down to Haman because he would honor God above all others. Esther was a sweet girl, godly girl. Her influence was strong enough to win the hearts of her servant girls, so she could promise that they would pray with her. It was strong enough to touch the heart of the king himself. She was brave, too. She was not content to just save the lives of her own household. Esther 8 and 6. She achieved that. She risked her life to make sure thousands of Jews scattered throughout the empire were also saved. When the Jews in Shushan, I don't know if that's how you say it. Anyway, got permission to fight for their lives, they exercised great restraint. They never took of the prey. They did not enrich themselves by the goods of those who had plotted their deaths. Is the blessing of God portrayed in the book, even if his name is not there? Certainly. His careful guidance and protection are shown in every chapter. It seems safe to conclude that Esther was blessed of God because she was obedient, and that Vashti lost her favored position because she refused to obey her husband. You may not agree, but at least you will concede, won't you, that the story ought to be used to try to approve a woman's, should not be used to try to approve a woman's disobedience to her husband. The overwhelming weight of the Bible testimony about a wife's obedience is that God expects a woman to obey her husband cheerfully, immediately, and without reservation. Let's do that again. The overwhelming weight of the Bible testimony about a wife's obedience is that God expects a woman to obey her husband cheerfully, immediately, and without reservation. Ooh, that is good. Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll keep reading that, but it seems like women are so confused today about obedience, and so many when you have them, okay, go ahead, ask questions, right? They always want to ask questions about abuse, or cheating. And I love the way that Mr. Samuels would handle the abuse question, first of all, both of them really, but very often it was a mutual combat, and the woman was an emotional abuser, a verbal abuser. She egged him on, edged him on, instigated, and helped to cause fights. Very often the woman is the first one to hit, so the statistics are not in our favor, ladies. Boy, I tell you what. So, unless, again, a man, the few that are out there that are just, full of rage, that, fist pounding in a corner or something completely unreasonable, that's different. But I truly believe that 8 out of the 10 divorces could be saved, because most of the time, the 2 out of the 10 that are men leaving, their wife has really done something bad. The 8 out of 10 women that are leaving, too many, are just not happy. They're bored. They think they can do better. Their husband may have cheated, but that is something that can be worked through. And people go through different seasons of their life, and to make it through a lifelong love, you have to be willing to take those hard circumstances and work through it. So, and very, very often it doesn't just happen. It's been building up, and very often men feel like they're not being heard. Their wife is not listening to them. She's not doing the simple things he's asking her to do, which she might not think are important, but they're important to him. She's not encouraging him, or she's being too critical or disappointed in him. And all it takes is some nice smelling sweet chick to start complimenting him about how hard he's working, what a great job he's doing. And I'm telling you, it's just like that. And believe me, from the very beginning, I've been praising my husband. So that is something very, very important. And of course, lots of sex. So, but even then, there are, again, you hear the way that all these women want the same men. So, it's very difficult for a man that's even trying to just, not make his life complicated by entertaining women here or there. But at some point, the temptation might break down and do something, because they're throwing themselves at them like on a daily basis. You have to have grace and try to understand. It's something that, generally speaking, women don't understand. We know that, men will sleep with us, they don't care about us, But but it's not. It's just a complete paradox. It's different for guys. They have to have earned it. Women don't just sleep with men for no reason, So, not any kind of decent woman that's good looking or has something to offer, body looks, whatever. Anywho, so that's just. I really think it comes down to listening and not always having this pushback that women very often do. It's like we always want to know why, and we always want to ask questions and say, well, did you think about doing it this way? And they get very annoyed with that, because my husband's like, don't you think I already thought of that? That's why I'm telling you this is how I want it done. So the least that we bother him or ask him, the better. They like things just streamlined, and like in the military, when a commander, lieutenant, whatever, sergeant, tells a private, here's your instructions, the private doesn't sit there and say, oh, well, sir, I'd like to know why I have to do it like that. And, well, how about if we did it like this? And, that would not be good. Whatever his punishment would be severe. So in the same way, we are underneath our husbands in the command order. He's our sergeant commander and we're the private, and we need to be able to follow orders. And he needs to know that he doesn't always have to explain himself. That is very important. Sometimes they do want you to understand their thinking process, and that's great. That's awesome. But most men don't really want to have to talk about it too much. So, that's that. It just is definitely it's been very disheartening, very disappointing, the way that women have just taken the scriptures and acted like, I'm going to redact all these things I don't like and just black it out. Like this was never there. And so many of them say, oh, I'll submit when I have something to submit to, or I'll submit if he's a leader, but then he's trying to lead and you don't want to listen. A lot of women will say, oh, well, I left because he was controlling. You mean he gave you guidelines and boundaries and rules to follow to keep you safe and protect you? That was his job, and you left him. Congratulations. And men don't want to be told what to do. You can never go, well, he does this to me, so I'm going to do that to him. You just can't. We're two totally different species. And, just out of principle, my husband's always been like, you don't need to be all up in my business just because you don't. I don't need a mother looking over my shoulder telling me I can do this, I can't do that, I shouldn't do this, and things like that. That irks him more than anything, It's just how it is. And so many people today, the girls will say, well, I need your location on your phone. That way I know if something happens to you. And, it's so funny. I tried that once with my husband, because in my mind I was like, oh, that makes sense, and he never asked for mine. He's like, I'll know where you are. You're supposed to be where you're supposed to be. But I sent mine to him just so he would know in case of emergency, and he goes, I'll be fine. I'm a grown man. Nobody's going to kidnap me. Nobody's going to rape me. And I will call you if something happens. And I was like, okay. So, it's not that I've never had these thoughts or haven't tried, but it's just, you have to understand. So for a lot of women, they don't like that. They want that equality, at least they think it is, but you're emasculating your man by trying to have his password to his phone, trying to have location on him, trying to know where he is every minute of the day. We know a gentleman, he's been married a long time, and he went off to run some errands, and now he just survived cancer, for heaven's sake. And his wife texted him, are you cheating on me? And he was so upset. And he's like, can I not just leave my home for a little while and do this, do that, and not have to answer to you or tell you exactly what I'm doing every moment of the day like I'm 10 years old? So that's how men feel about it, and we have to be understanding. And I found the more freedom that I gave my husband, the more amazing that he was, and the more he was like, let me know what was going on, you know? So like I told you, when he used to go out in the beginning, I'd be bothering him, you know, when you coming home and all this stuff, and he would just like not call. He'd be like, you know, I'll be back when I'm back. And he did not want a leash on him, which, you know, I understand. So the more I just say, have fun, honey, have a good time, then he would keep in contact with me. He'd text me, hey, we got here, or he'd call me, hey, I got here. Now we're going here. And then he'd call me when he's leaving. All right, honey, I'm on my way home, and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't ask him to. It's because I left him alone that he started to just do it for me, you know, and I really appreciate that. So, and all these things go against our female nature. We're very nosy. We want to know everything, and we feel like we're, you know, we're helping, and we're not. We're nosy, and we need to stay out of his business. So that is that. What other things? But, you know, obedience is such an issue. And, you know, women today, they really, really, really want to just have things their way. And if they don't feel like obeying, first of all, I so many people have taken out of the marriage vows, and that's disheartening. It's just sad. And they just bristle at it. And they're like, I'm not obeying anybody. You know, I'm not a dog. And it's like, wow, you know, is he the one that's going to get up in the middle of the night and fight off bad guys, you know, protect you everywhere you go? For many, still the main provider, the breadwinner, even if she's working, she usually spends most of her own income. So he's still paying, you know, the primary bills and everything. It's like, plus he's a man. He is the man. So that's his job. And I feel bad for the men that try to do this whole like equality thing, egalitarianism and all this stuff, because the woman's never happy. She's actually more upset that he caved to what she wanted, and she loses respect for him. So I've learned that it's better if I'm pouting, like I'm just mad, you know, about the way that something happened, but daddy stood his ground. Okay, I respect him for that. You know, and believe me, there's been very few times he's actually caved for me. But I've learned that that's good. It's not bad. And women would tell you, oh, well, sometimes he needs to compromise with you. Sometimes he needs to do this for you. Listen, your girlfriends are probably the worst people ever to talk about your issues with. Please don't. Just email me. Okay? Talk to somebody that knows what they're talking about. Yeah. So I just can't stress it enough. And like I said, you know, this book talks about how a lot of problems would be solved if you just were obedient to begin with. You know, a lot of things build up tension, resentment, and then men start to do funny things. They start acting a certain kind of way, or spending more time on their phone, or spending more time away. You know, you want him to want to come home. You want him to want to hurry home. But there's a whole bunch of men that are stopping by the bar, stopping by the strip club, stopping by freaking just sitting in a parking lot. I mean, just trying to decompress before they come home because they don't know what they're going to deal with at home. And women that are expecting their men to do household chores and things like that and help them with the kids. No, you know, you got to kind of think of it like the animal kingdom. Daddy's the lion, you know, and all he needs to do is roar, keeps the bad guys away. He will kill something, you know, and the mama takes care of the cubs. She takes care of the basic feeding, the basic hunting, things like that. But without him, they would all be in danger. They would all die, you know. So he does what he needs to do. And people think that the lioness is like the bad bitch, you know, she's the one that keeps it all going. And it's like, well, no, it's the lion. He is the one. Without his presence and strength and mighty roar, you know, they would be vulnerable. And the women, the females, work together that's how they're able to survive. It's not one lioness all by herself. When the male lions come of age, they are sent out on their own so that they could, find their way in the world and create their own pride. And they have to earn it. They have to go conquer somewhere and, create a pride. And the females don't do that. They stay where they're at. And whoever comes and who's the boss, that's who's in charge. So, it's just kind of the same way in your house. Daddy does what he does. My husband does all the masculine jobs, cars, and I help him with the yard a little bit now because I like to cut grass. But the boys would do that, all the edging and weed eating, bush trimming, all that kind of stuff. Putting ceiling fans up, fixing things, all that kind of stuff. And all the really relatively easy things, the dishes and the floors and laundry and all that kind of stuff, and the cooking. That's what I do, teach my daughter and that kind of stuff. So we have roles, and we are really best suited for those gender roles. It's true. So what else? I don't know. I'd like you guys to ask me some questions. I might try to go live soon. I don't know if you have to have 1,000 subs or not. I'm pretty close, which hi, all the new subs. Yay. And again, if anybody has any, the women have questions, they can email me, radalost75@yahoo.com. It's RAD as in David, HALOST75 @yahoo.com. So if you have questions, ladies, you can email me. That way you don't put your personal information out there, and just put something in the subject line that's like, hey, from YouTube or something. Let me know, because I get way too many emails and I'll lose it. So and of course, with all these coaches out there, Mama Radha, this is my community service. This is how I give back to the community, by trying to help encourage women to get a husband, create a family and keep their family, how to love their husband, how to unbrainwash themselves from all this feminism and stuff that's just ruined everything, and how to get the proper dynamics back in your house so you guys can be happy, and you're not going to be happy every day your whole life, but generally you'll have joy and you'll feel content in knowing that everybody's in their right place and you guys can fight the battles of the world together. You're his support, and he needs that, especially if you guys have a family. And the more support he has from you, the more incredible things he can do. It's amazing what a man will do who is inspired by his woman. So he has the capacity and capabilities. My husband's brain is so incredible. He tries to explain these different things to me, and I can hang on by like a tiny, like this much of it. And I'm like, okay, and I was like, wow, your brain's incredible. I don't even know how you think like that. And it's just always going. And to him, it makes complete sense. It's like, matter of fact, like 2 + 2 is 4. And I'm like, okay, Daddy. That sounds awesome, and sometimes I'm scared because I'm like, oh, those are big numbers. Like, what are you talking about? And, sometimes he'll break it down for me, and he does very often try very hard to make sure I understand what he's talking about, but I don't always get it. So I tell him, I said, listen, honey, the main thing is that I know that you know what you're doing, and I trust you, and I believe in you, and I think you're amazing, and I know that he's already recovered so well from the crash of the market. I'm like, good for you, sweetheart. God bless. So I'm really, really proud of him for that. He took some chances and actually made some good calls, and was able to really boost his numbers back up. And he really wants to retire. He's almost there. So we'll see. He's so sick of putting his ass on the line. It's hard work. So anyway, what else, guys? I don't know. That's, it's just so simple. It's like, just listen. And very few men are like, hey, honey, let's put our videos on Pornhub, or hey, let's go, do some illegal things. I mean, like, who's doing that? And if that's the guy that you chose badly. But that's why it's really not an excuse to not obey the man that you chose, because you chose him. And most men, the majority of the time, are not asking you to do anything illegal or sinful for the love of God. you know, he might just be saying, no, you can't buy that right now. No, we can't go out to dinner this week. No, I don't want you going on a girls' trip, you know, whatever. You know, you drink too much, or, you know, I want you to do this particular thing every day, and you just like, I don't feel like it. You know, you just need to get your attitude right and realize that that is your job. And the more that you do your job, the happier he's going to be, the more content he's going to be. And in turn, you'll be happier, the kids will be happier, everyone's happier. So I guess that's it, guys. It's long enough. All right, ciao.